Welcome back to our 85th episode of the Launcher Farm Show, where I interview Tom Storey from Royal LePage in Toronto, Canada. In this episode, Tom and I talk about why agents should be using video to build a strong personal brand in their farm and how you can do the same in yours. Tom also shares how he creates consistent content in batches to save time and energy to ensure he gets it all done. And we also talk about what type of content Tom's using and how he breaks it down into reusable content bytes. Tom also shares a super easy way to generate leads while he's sleeping, and how his content has pre-sold consumers before they even meet him. And Tom also shares how he leverages the media to build super credibility by positioning himself as the expert and the advisor, and how he leverages this to close more sales. Plus, we talk about a ton of other ideas you can use to grow your geographic farm. So be sure to check out this episode, like and subscribe, and enjoy the episode with Tom. Welcome back to another episode of the Launcher Farm Show. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and today we've got a great guest. It's Tom Storey. Tom's a team leader with Royal LePage Signature in Toronto. So Tom, take a second, tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you for having me, Ryan. So yeah, I've been selling real estate in Toronto, primarily downtown Toronto. This is year number 9. So I started right out of university, fresh 22-year-old, could barely grow any facial hair, let alone get an appointment with anybody. So yeah, started really young, kind of a lot's changed, obviously the last 8-9 years, but got into the industry right out of school. This is my first real thing that I did out of university, and kind of was sink or swim, and went all in, and very happy that I did that. And now I've grown a team to, we have 5 other agents and administrator, and kind of now I'm mostly on the listing and content creation side of things at this point, but I went through built my business through leases, worked with buyers, like I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got to today.
Nice. Awesome. And you're obviously one of the odd one outs, because not many people jump into this as their first career and as their lifelong career. So most people always find is they get into it haphazardly, or it's a second career for them. So it's awesome to see you do that and succeed right from the beginning, which is huge.
I always tell people, like, I'm 30, so in real estate I'm young, but if I was an athlete, I'm not getting the 10-year contract. I'm not. So it depends on what you do in life. I'm like an over the hill veteran if I was a hockey player, but I'm young. I'm young in this industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I want to dive in today about talking really about what you've done in the business and how you've accomplished it, because you've done some really unique things, and I've been a fan of yours for a number of years. I've watched, we've spoke at some conventions together, and I've seen you do some really cool things, and you're doing it in an awesome and authentic way. So let's dive into, before we dive into that, kind of get when you got started, how did you adapt and shift over time? So what was the kind of beginning look like for you?
Yeah. So what it was is, like, my first year in real estate, I did nothing the right way. It was a good learning experience, right? Ran around everywhere, would meet anybody at any point. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like on a market knowledge level, on a client experience level, I'm there. Why am I not doing more business? Mm-hmm. Right. And it became very frustrating. And what I realized, and I had interviewed the CFO of Bomb, Steve Pacinelli. Yep. And he kept saying to me in this interview, he's like, Tom, visibility trumps ability. He kept saying this. I was like, what are you talking about? So like, I kind of took that, made that my own mantra, and changed it around, where it's visibility beats ability. And it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if nobody knows. Yep. No different than sending farming postcards or making, so my thing was, I sat in the back row at the end of 2015, or maybe it was the end of 2014, end of my first year in real estate, at a real estate conference. And I remember the presenter was like, just write down one thing you're going to go do tomorrow. Like, you got all these ideas. And I wrote down video in capital letters. And my whole mindset was like, this is going to be sent to my database when I'm making videos, I'm speaking to them. But now that I've already made it, might as well put it on YouTube, Instagram, all the different things. And then from there, it just turned into something kind of crazy. And the first thing that I saw in terms of benefit wasn't actually gaining new clients. It was other realtors from other marketplaces being like, hey, I watch your stuff. I got a client coming to Toronto. Can you help them? So that I never expected. Now that's turned into like a massive avenue of business for us.
Yeah, that's a big part that a lot of agents miss when they think of traditional farming or using video or any real strategies, is how do you be visible, not just to your audience, but to, like you said, agents outside the area, because that can be a huge lead generator, which then reinforces the deals you get. You get referrals from them, which helps you get more deals in that area, which then helps you get more visibility in your own area. And it can just be huge for you, which it has been for you.
And it's like just even recognizing, like, if I know now, if I put out content on Instagram, and we're pretty much just doing short form stuff now, we're doing reels.
Yeah.
I know who I'm speaking to. I'm talking to realtors.
Yeah.
Because of our 10,000 followers, probably 7,000 of them are realtors. So I understand who my audience is. But
Yeah.
when I make YouTube videos long form, I know I'm talking to the consumer. So it's just kind of shifting the message or how you're going to go about it slightly, because you got to know who you're talking to.
Yeah. And that's a key point. Like you said, it's knowing who you're talking to, and then what message is going to resonate with them and creating that. So when you were doing those first videos at the beginning, what did it look like? Because I've seen some of your older videos and some of your new videos, you've shifted. So how did those first videos look like? So
it started off with a thought process of like, I'm going to become the authority figure to my past clients and people that just know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk about the market. I would just print out the TREB market stats, have them in front of me, like look up and down.
Yeah.
And it was a monthly video called the Story Report, just my last name report, and I would put together, I'd send it out through BombBomb to my database so they could consume it like in a nice bite-sized way. And it was 2 to 3 minutes. I literally like read off the TREB stats is what I did. It was boring. I would wear a full suit. The early ones weren't very good, but it was like every month, no matter what, this goes to the database. And for the first, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, you don't really know if it's working, right? And you kind of feel like you're talking to a brick wall.
Yeah.
You're like, hey guys, welcome back. You're like, I don't know if anyone's watching. But and then I kept and I post them on YouTube, and then one thing led to another, and then people would start reaching out that weren't even in my database, but were like, it's a friend from high school I haven't talked to in 10 years. It's like, hey, I watch all your stuff. I want to buy. Can you help? And what was amazing for me to realize is that these people were reaching out for me, not for the property. So it's not like I had a listing. Hey, can you get us through that? It's like, hey, we want you. Can you help us buy something? Because the property was secondary.
Yep.
And that was a big thing. I was like, oh my God, this is not an online lead in terms of what we consider an online. This is someone's done their due diligence. They've been watching you online. They've been secretly dating you for you don't know how long. And then they reach out and they're ready to go. And it's not like here's the 10 questions I have to see if we should hire you. It's like they've already made up their mind.
Yeah.
And that's what I found just like so powerful about video.
Yeah, they've done the interviewing. They've got to know you, the good things, the bad things, the quirks, the personality, and when they meet you in person, it just becomes that natural progression because they already have a feeling for what you're like, and if they like you, they wouldn't have called you if they didn't.
That's honestly, I think the biggest thing I always tell their agents is like, I think the best thing about video is I don't know how much time I've saved myself from people I wouldn't have gotten along with.
Yeah,
because if they've watched me and don't like me, they're not going to reach out.
Yeah.
So, that's a benefit that you'll never be able to say like, well, look, exactly this, but I know it exists.
Yeah. So how do you then parlay that video into the rest of your business? Because obviously you have your database. How are you using video for new business, and how are you using video to generate more deals then?
Yeah. Okay. So right now it falls into a few categories. And there's videos that go from me to everybody, which everyone can see. And then there's one-to-one videos, right? Okay. I would actually say most of our in database generated business comes from one-to-one videos. So the way that I have it scheduled right now is I'll post a market educational video on YouTube once a week at least.
Okay.
And it's like, here's why prices are changing, or it's like not like here's the reasons why I'm a great realtor, because no one clicked that. They don't care.
Exactly.
Right. It's like educational. I'm not there to sell myself, but there is a call to action.
Yep.
And so we've grown. So for first on long form for YouTube, it's minimum 4 videos a month. We have about just over 5,000 subscribers there, built a nice little community.
Yep.
And we have a call to action in the first 30 seconds for a link to Calendly. And we're booking 3 to 5 appointments a week. It's insane. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
Honestly, the most untapped resource for realtors if you're willing to commit the time.
Yeah.
But it took time to get there, right? So if we're looking at purely new business, YouTube is bringing in, I think we've sold 14 properties this calendar year from YouTube.
Wow.
Which is like, I think if you can get to 20, you can call something like a real lead source.
Yep.
We're almost there. So that's pretty cool. If I then look at the referral from other realtors business coming in, it's the short form stuff. So like a lot of the Instagram reels, just being active on that platform.
Yep.
And then if I look in the database, we've got the home anniversary, the birthday videos, all that kind of stuff. But then the one that really clicks is the virtual health check. So what it basically is twice a year, and it's strategic. It's in March and it's in August, because as we head into April and September, best time to know your property's worth. So what we'll do, like if it was your property, I would send you a video and it's like 45 seconds. It's not long, right? Be like, hey, Ryan, it's Tom. I'm just checking in. You know, I know you're not looking to sell your house, but you meet with your doctor twice a year, your dentist twice a year. You should talk to me twice a year about what's going on with the market. Awesome. So what I've got on my screen here, I've got the last 3 properties that sold in your neighborhood. And check out number 2, same lot size, double car garage. Check what that sold for in the top right. Anyways, I actually think your house is better than that. And I know you're not looking to sell right now, but in this email, if you go back out of this video, there's a link to all the properties. If you have any questions, let me know. That's awesome. That's, and like, I am not telling you the value of the property.
Yep.
It's simply here's some stuff. If you got more questions, we can set up a call. And that video sent out to everyone in our database last year initiated 22 listings.
Wow. That's incredible. So that's nuts.
Maybe they would have called me anyways. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'd rather not know and just follow the system. So that on its own, that small little, you can use Loom or BombBomb or whatever to send that, has been very, very powerful.
The great thing too is, from a farming perspective, is if you're focusing in a specific area, you can pull up those same comparables and send it to 10 different people, 20 different people, and literally just record the same thing and say, hey, this is your model home. Yeah. And then save a crap load of time that way too.
I was actually thinking of doing something like that with our farming cards, with a QR code that takes them to a domain that's just that video, and being like, here's, and I don't know, like I haven't tested that yet, but just give, maybe with a squeeze page to get their email going into it or something like that. Yeah.
So I want to ask you then about promoting video, because I find some agents are okay with creating it. Sure. And they struggle with, they create some content and they put it out there and go, what the heck, now what? Yeah. How are you getting it? Obviously you built a list up, but how did you grow your list and how did you get it in front of eyeballs?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first thing for the creating the content is if it's short form, you have to batch film. You can't do it. So like I've got a studio book for next week. I'm going to film 30 Instagram reels that morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not editing them. I've got a guy for that. Yep. I don't think we should be doing that, to be honest with you. I think you should know the fundamentals to get a message out quick if you need to. Yep. So for that type of content, short form, it's being filmed once or twice, probably once every 6 weeks. I'll go rent the studio. Yep. And then to build up the long form list, I know this sounds like so obvious, but I just asked people. Like I just promoted it on my Instagram that would take you to YouTube, and every YouTube video is like, hey, if you like this content, click subscribe. It helps the algorithm and it helps you see more videos. And that really, really built up. And then I just actually last week tried a new thing where I bought the domain torontohousingtracker.com.
Nice.
And I just said, hey, if you watch these videos and you want to know what's going on in the market, every month I will update average price, median price, how many properties sold, months of inventory on this Google Docs spreadsheet. Type in this, it takes them to a form. Yep. Plug it in. I grab their email. So I've got 38 emails in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just that's from awesome. So that's how and I am more understanding now that like the social platforms are great, but if my Instagram got hacked tomorrow, the email list is probably more important than anything, right?
That's key. And that's where I find that a lot of agents miss that opportunity because they think, well, I've got my platform, I got my whatever it is I'm using. And it's like, if something changes, if the algorithm changes, I know when I used to do my podcast years ago, my old podcast, I could literally put out a video and I get 400 views on the video. It's like, you need way more, you need to have a list in case something happens. If the algorithm changes, you can get it out there. So that's a big part of it. And I think one of the key things, which is what you said earlier, is the consistency. Yeah. And that's where I find most agents drop the ball, is consistency. They'll try to create some videos up front. They don't get the results that they want. And then they just back away from it and they lose out on a ton of opportunity.
Yeah. You and I will say too, I had to get other things in order in my business to make sure I was being consistent with the content. Yeah, so it's like, whether it was year 2 saying, I don't do leases anymore, I'm going to hire someone to do leases. Yep. Then 3 years ago saying, I don't take buyers out anymore. I'm strictly listing focused. So now it's like, when I wake up, where do I find a listing? Am I creating content today, or does my team need help? But I will be honest, if I was running around with buyers and doing everything and making content, it would be very, very difficult. So I think just like understanding that it can be done, but if you want a life, you kind of got to pick and choose what you're going to be doing.
And at the level that you're doing it, to be that consistent, you need that time, and you need to have it disciplined and scheduled in there so that you're able to get it done. Because again, a lot of agents try it, they dabble in video. Same with like anything. It's internet leads, with social media. It's like, if you just dabble in it, you're not going to get the results that you're getting because if you're not so focused.
Yeah, 100%. Like I really break it down to like agents that succeed versus don't succeed to like 3 pieces of criteria, like patience, consistency, and execution. Right. Yeah. It's like the systems work. We can't argue the systems. Like, we know they work. We have proof. So you follow the system, it will work. You just gotta be patient with it, right? The consistency is doing it, which we know maybe you hire someone to make you more consistent or whatever it is. And then the execution of like planners are fine, but I'd rather just go and then figure it out. Like,
So I want to talk about your farm as well, because I know you've been actually doing geographic farming as well.
Yeah.
So talk about that and how you're incorporating video and the other strategies you're doing too.
So I've been farming about 10,000 condos in downtown Toronto since mid 2019, let's say. I hit 4 different pockets, and they're 4 different pockets that had a good turnover rate that I liked. There were buildings I actually liked that I'd want to sell in. Which I think makes a difference. I've excluded some areas I just don't want to participate in. And I'll send out, it's basically once a month we'll send a flyer, and it's very much education stats driven. Here are the numbers. And what we've been doing recently that has led to a lot of appointments is we'll have a call to action, which is like book a seller's consultation with Tom. I can send you like all of it if you want to share with the audience. And you take out your phone. We all know how to use QR codes now. They scan it, and it actually directly take them to my Calendly page, where there's 3 options: discovery call, buyer consultation, seller consultation. And I don't know how many listing appointments I've woken up to and looked at my phone and be like, oh, nice.
That's awesome.
It's pretty insane. And I love it because I was literally on one this morning. They get the mailer, they don't throw it out. They bring it upstairs, they put it down, they take out their phone. Like they really had to make an effort. That to me is like, that's a lead. That's not like a Facebook, like auto-populated their information. And our success rate on those is extremely high. And I think we did 20 something. I have to double check, 20 something listings last year directly from the farm.
Nice.
Which condo prices have done very well in downtown Toronto. So, it turned into over $200,000 in GCI. Like it's a plan that works, but it is expensive.
So are you doing anything else to coincide with that, or is it just the mailers themselves?
It's interesting. I kind of look at it like a 5-prong attack. It's a bit more difficult with condos because I'm also doing 4 different areas, although close. Toronto's so big. It's like, so sometimes a QR code will take them directly to a market update video. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I'm taking them to different places, and where I've had a lot of people reach out saying, hey, we got your postcards, then we checked you out on Instagram, then we watched your YouTube video, and that's when we reached out. So I don't always know what it is, but I haven't gone as far as doing like actual community events, which I recognize I probably should. But the farming was actually like a newer thing for me because I didn't look at it as like I could afford it at first. So it's like, I have, my business is repeat and referral, which obviously everybody knows that's the core of everything. That plan, then our alliance plan, which is mortgage brokers, other realtors, and then new business. And for me right now, new business is either coming from YouTube or it's coming from flyers. But flyers cost money. YouTube costs time. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I actually think YouTube is the most expensive platform for me for how much time I'm investing in doing the actual thing, where flyers is more passive now.
That's the key, especially at the volume that you're doing. When you're putting $1 on your time, there's a lot more time to do that one video. If you're doing 5 or 10 deals a year, to create a video doesn't seem like a lot of time, but at the volume you're doing, you have to account for every dollar and every time spent on that, which is a big part of it. So is there any plans to put video or more video into the farming itself, or are you going to kind of keep them separate?
Yeah, the one thing that I haven't really pursued would be like doing specific neighborhood market updates and then putting that. It's like, how do you combine old school with new school, right? How does the flyer show up that takes them to something that is virtual, right? And honestly, the truth is like, I haven't had to, because it's been working. So it's like, I see the result. I know it's there. I know if I put this amount in printing and sending, I can almost guarantee X result based on our conversion when we get the appointment. And because I know, and this will be interesting, actually, you probably disagree with this, but if I had to cut one thing from my business on a cost per sale perspective, my listings from flyers cost me the most because I spent so much to get them.
And that's why I teach agents that traditional postcard marketing is not usually your best first option in your farm. It's something I would say you should add in after, because it adds in an additional trust. There's things you can do that are cost effective from a time perspective and from a lead generation perspective. And a lot of people go to the mailers first. And it's the same thing I would say with like billboards, park benches, and those kind of things. It's like those can work, but as an initial ways to get your business launched is usually not the most cost effective way to get it. And if you don't have the capital to do that, you're spending a lot of money to not get a high return. And then you end up, like you said, being one of the most costly per listing to get, because it can eat your budget up.
But I will say, when I transitioned to just focusing on listings, it's like I would make this trade-off all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's a no-brainer, right? Because I think a lot of agents are very good at what they do, but just don't get to the kitchen table enough.
Yep.
And they can't show that they're good at what they do. So, you know, I've really spent, like, I don't even know how long trying to perfect the listing presentation. If I can get in, I know I can probably get it. I got to figure out how to get in. And this is another way that's getting me there. And that's all that I really focus on.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it. And again, I always say that the great thing about our industry is that there's kind of clear steps that have to happen. And we know where the gaps are. If you can say, okay, I've got leads but no appointments, then there's a problem between getting appointments. If you got appointments but you're not closing at the table,
right,
then there's a problem. If you're closing but not getting sales, so you can kind of dissect and work backwards. For you figured that out. You know what works. You know your numbers, I'm sure. And it's like, okay, how do I just get more of whatever you need?
Yeah, it's like one of the different ways in which opportunities are coming in. And this year it's been actually like I don't know, probably 30% of my listings have come from flyers. But
awesome.
but I've been doing it for 3.5 years.
And that's the key. And that's where most agents drop the ball. They give up at 3 to 6 months because they're so cost effective or costly up front. They give up and don't have the time to stay with it, and they lose.
You know, what's so funny is sometimes I'll walk in. So like they book the appointment on my website, which like Calendly's built into it. I wake up, it's on my time, right? Like you can't book a listing presentation with me after 5 p.m. because it's just not available.
That's awesome.
So I go in there typically in the afternoon, and I swear, like I'll walk in sometimes, they'll have like a stack of flyers of my stuff from the last year. I'm like, okay, I think I got this one. But it's so crazy because before you get into this business, you kind of see that, you go, does that work? And I think a lot of people dismissed it.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
You just gotta be patient and willing to put some money behind it and let it play out, right?
And I think too, there's value in hard copy stuff and tangible things. And this is where everyone wants to go all straight digital, and it works. But by having online and offline, you can kind of combine. When they have something they can hold on to, like you said, they got them all there. We did in our farm, we used to do a neighborhood home price report, and we'd send it out each month, and it was a printed copy, and they'd hold on to it. We'd go to the appointment, and there's literally like the binder there that we sent them initially, and they pull out the binder, and it's like they hold on to that. And there's more value in that, because especially when it's hyper local and you're trying to connect at that hyper local level, it makes a difference.
I also think like there are certain condos in Toronto, a lot of the ones I hit are like the owners are 25 to 40, but there's certain areas where I know the owners are 45 to 70. And I we used to have a postcard that would go out that would like look like handwritten, saying, hey neighbor, we just sold a property. I got so many calls on that being like, thank you so much for the handwritten. I didn't have the heart to be like, it's a machine. But there are a lot of baby boomers, I guess you could say, that are getting this, and that is their understanding of this is the person I need to call. Whether that is correct or not, it does work. And I think you got to at least acknowledge that, right?
Exactly. So I want to go back to video for a second then and talk about agent hesitation, because I know you train agents on video and how to use video. And I find that most agents, if they just did it and got unafraid of it, they would actually see the results. So where do you see most agents hesitating, and why do you see them hesitating with doing video?
Mostly it's the where to even start with it. Like what would I talk about? Why, how could I put this out there? And I always think there's like basically like the video starter pack, right? Is like a decent camera. You could use your phone. Sound is more important than video. If I can see you but I can't hear you, I'm turning it off. If I can hear you but the video's not great, I'll still listen. Right. Lighting, right? Lighting is huge. And then a tripod of some sort. Like you don't need that's it. That's to get started. And I would recommend I have my video setup at home is a station that I sit down at a desk. I've got my lights. I hit, nothing moves. I have an idea. I sit down. Where if you have to set it up every time, I think that also holds people back. But most agents that I train on video, it's like, if you don't know where to start with what we already talked about before, the video CMA.
Yeah.
It's a one-to-one video. And the reason why I started the training course for video was because there were so many realtors that I would see out there that were doing video, but I knew we're not selling a lot of properties. And I didn't want people to fall into the trap of, okay, well, if I just do this, like feeding the ego, but not the bank account as a business owner is, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Right. So it was like, what are the actual types of videos that will help you get more appointments? So for where to start, most people, I'd say, write down all your clients that have birthdays starting in June and send them, schedule a video at 7 a.m. to say happy birthday. That's where you start. Yeah. Because I would argue the one-to-one videos bring in way more business than the one to everybody videos anyway. And then, I don't know, like at the end of the day, I just always go back to like, does McDonald's make the best burger in the world? No. Why do they sell the most amount of burgers? Because they're damn good at marketing. Yeah. And they're convenient and they simplify. Yeah. So, when I'm making videos, I'm speaking slowed down almost. I'm like walking through, like if a 10-year-old watches my video, I think they can go away and go like, okay, I understood that. Yeah. Which I know sounds funny, but like we in our own world use different words or sayings and the average consumer doesn't care about real estate until it's time to move. Yeah. Like some people are junkies and that's, they just love the information, but the average person doesn't care. Yeah. So all it is like 95% of the time you sending a postcard or sending a video or whatever, your potential client does not need you. Yeah. But when that 5% comes, did you send it that month? And if you didn't, somebody else did. Yeah. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. Like just when that small percentage comes, why would they call you? And if you gave up that month before, you're out.
Exactly. And that's where that consistency is so important. Same with, like I said, we did our neighbor to home price report. And if we even skipped a beat, if it was like 2 days late, we'd be saying, hey, where's that? We usually get that. And it's like, okay, like some people become fanatic about it and you got to be there and provide that to them.
And I love the idea. And it's the same thing as saying postcards. You don't know how many people are silently watching or consuming and they don't tell you. Like, how many people even today did each of us get up on our phone, scroll through Instagram, consume their content, but we didn't say, hey, I like this or physically like it. Yeah. So many people are watching and they will reach out when they're ready. Yeah. You just don't know they exist yet. Exactly. In some cases, right?
So I want to ask you then about the percentage of content that's real estate related, because I've heard different things. And what do you find is a good mix of how much should be real estate related, how much should be community or personal, and how much should be other content?
I mean, I've really dug in on the educational real estate side of things. So I am pretty heavy in that. Yeah. I do have 2 accounts. Like I have a personal account, which I'm rarely active on, and I've got my business one. But the business one, if you search my name, you'll find that first, because I'd rather people just go there. But I'm pretty heavy on the real estate stuff. They know what they're getting if they go to my page. I have slightly shifted into like, not motivational, but like, here's what successful people do. Cause I know I'm speaking with realtors also. Yep. And then it's just like the way that you put it together. So like, if I look over my last few YouTube videos, it's like, if you own a condo right now, here are the 3 things that you need to know. Yeah. So I think it's like taking an idea, a hook, having a 1, 2, 3, and then wrapping it up is really working well for the content. But personal stuff, like I'll put personal stuff on there, but my personal stuff is not professionally made videos. Okay. It's Instagram stories and whatnot. Yeah. Okay.
And the next question would be coming up with the content ideas. Cause again, I find a lot of agents struggle with, if they're not creative or they're not thinking outside the box, how do you stay fresh and how do you keep creating 30 videos at a time and make it actually work?
Yeah. I've got in my notes app, whenever I get an idea, I literally plug it in. Like I just put like, I think this is interesting. What I do for short form content is I'll go back to my YouTube videos from even a year ago. Like, what did I talk about there? Can I make that 6-minute video into 30 seconds? So I'll reuse ideas, but redo it. And then what I do, I think it's askthepublic.com or something. There's a website you can like type in real estate and it'll be like, here are all the who, what, where questions being asked online. And then what I'll do all the time, news headlines are your friends.
Yeah.
My recent videos that kill it, like 6,000 views on YouTube, which again, like in the grand scheme of things is nothing, but in our little niche is a lot of viewership, is I'll just share my screen and talk about an article and why I disagree or agree with it.
Yeah.
So I'll type in Toronto real estate on Google, click the news section. What are the headlines? Can I make a video on this headline?
That's awesome.
And that will give you content forever.
Exactly. That's curating content that you don't have to come up with from scratch and creating stuff that's interesting, but you have to be willing to put your foot down and draw a line in the sand. And that's a lot of agents are afraid to do that. So they're afraid of saying like, this is what I believe, or this is what I think, or making a prediction or saying something because they're afraid of, it's like, if you're willing to say that, people go, okay, then I agree or don't agree. And I find you'll connect with more people who will connect with you based on that. Yeah.
Like, I think you have to be on the line of polarizing without being polarizing. Yes. Right?
Like it's a spectrum. You got to be closer to it, but you can't be just super neutral and say,
if you're totally neutral on everything, you're never going to win anyone over.
Yeah.
And I guess you have to be okay with the fact that some people aren't going to agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, like if I look at the social platforms, like Instagram's pretty positive for the most part.
Yeah.
YouTube's has its trolls, but it's the best platform just to eliminate people. You can just ban them from the channel; they're gone.
Yeah.
Twitter's a tough one because if you block them, they can see you block them. And I kind of stay. I stayed away from Twitter.
I never touch Twitter for. It's a cesspool.
It's just the worst of it. Yeah. And then I haven't engaged in TikTok, and I don't dismiss TikTok. I'm not dumb enough to think that there's not potentially good results and viewership there. But so far, based on the people that I've talked to that I respect that are getting a good following there, are not turning it into appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that can't happen.
Yep.
It's just as of right now, I know YouTube turns into appointments.
Yeah,
and I run a business based on appointments, and that's all.
That's key. So I want to ask you about the. I know one of the things you do is a lot of getting in front of news media and getting coverage that way. How has that affected your business, and how did you get started with that? Because I've found agents want to do more of that kind of stuff, and especially hyper local.
Yeah.
How did you get started in that, and how did that grow?
Okay, so first of all, if you ever get an opportunity for this, move your schedule and do it. Because if you say no, they will not call you back. So that's the first thing. Also, when you do live news, they will say, this is the topic. It's 5 minutes. They do not give you the questions very many times. So my piece of advice is if you go on, always know what your first answer is going to be, regardless of what they ask. Because then you get into just the conversation, right? Okay, so how it actually happened for me is I work for, do we talk about brands on the show? Does that matter?
Yeah.
Or did I keep, okay. I work for Royal LePage. Royal LePage is, they have a PR department. And they have agents in different markets that they kind of choose and go like, I think you would be good for this. Would you be willing to do this for the company? Nice. That's how it started. But I only got that opportunity because I was already putting out my crappy little videos.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, he looks like he can talk in front of a camera and he knows what he's talking about. Let's give him a shot.
Yeah.
So it's only because I took the first step. But what I would do if I didn't have that initial connection is I would go to all the articles in my marketplace, the real estate reporters, their name and email are at the bottom of every article.
Yeah.
Just email them, be like, I have an opinion on this. They're starving for content.
Yeah.
They want to hear from you. So that's how that started. How has it impacted my business? I could count on my hand how many cold leads reached out to me saying, I saw you on the news, come sell my house now.
Yeah.
Like that's not really what happens, but my past clients, it can't hurt, right? It's cool validation. Other realtors think it's really cool, which brings in a lot of referral business. So it's absolutely a big part of thing, but it's not like I can't track exactly where the business comes from it.
And I've talked to other agents who have had similar experiences where it's like that interview didn't get them a deal, but it helps create credibility, helps create trust, helps create more opportunities. And then you can also then use that in your marketing. You can use that in your presentation and say, I'm on this as seen on here, and here. And that just helps build more trust. And if you've got an agent who hasn't been on CBC or whatever, CP24, and this agent has, then it's just
I even tell my clients, I'm like, because it's in my listing presentation, I have a media section, and I'll say like, listen, I can't go on the news and talk about your house. That's not, they don't let me do that. But I think you have a competitive advantage in the marketplace working with our team because I have to be so up to date on the numbers and stats and fundamentally what's happening in the market. I know what's going on, because if I don't, I look like a dummy on live TV. And they keep, this is like literally verbatim what, and I'm like, they wouldn't keep inviting me back if I was terrible. So there's got to be something there, you know? And I just say, like, I think as one of our potential clients, you have an advantage in the market, because if you ask me what's happening, it's not a gut feeling. It's I know the numbers. Because if I didn't know the numbers, I'd look like a fool on TV. So I think that's how I've kind of crafted into here's how it benefits the client as well.
That's great. That's awesome. So yeah, so it seems like you've really done a great job at pulling it together and really creating a cohesive system in your business. What's next for your business? Where do you see things evolving from where you're at now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd always thought, like, if I could just get to this, and then you get there, and then you know. So I became a dad 5 months ago.
Congratulations. That's
so
awesome.
thank you. And so I've been training for this for the last 3 years. So it's like, I have no interest in being number one realtor, whoever, with a mega team. And I want my weekends. If I can wake up every day and feel calm and feel in control, which in real estate is like impossible, but as much as you can, that's a win to me. So every year I do this, I feel less like a real estate agent and more just like a business person. And so I still really I love presentations. I love, whether it's talking to you, talking to a crowd of 1,000 people, or talking one-to-one with a seller, that like gets me going. I love that. So I will always do that, but I will probably take a step back in terms of actual servicing every opportunity in the next 5 years. And I've already done it with buyers and leases, obviously, but I'll probably start doing it with listings as well, where I can just run it. I just like the bird's eye view perspective on business. How can I move the chess pieces and make decisions and train people that can be great on appointments, so that I can focus on, I love making content. And a lot of realtors are amazing at servicing, but not good at creating.
100%.
I know I've figured out I can create opportunity, but I don't want to service every opportunity. And frankly, my buyer's agents are better than me at helping buyers, because I haven't done it in 3 years. And so to answer the question, like, where is it going? I want growth that doesn't impact lifestyle, but still impacts business. And probably doing that is bringing in more people.
Nice. Are you going to be doubling down on content, or just kind of keeping the same amount and just being more strategic?
I mean, I'm launching a podcast next week, like every other person. So I'm about 10 years too late, but I'm going harder on that aspect. Nice. Just because I know what it can do on even small things, like, we have agents that will bring offers to, and they'll be like, hey, your offer is not as high as this one, but I know Tom, or I know you guys, and I know you don't mess around, so we're going to go with yours. So even that like reputation, the industry stuff really matters. And I think I don't want to take my foot off the gas on the content, because lots of realtors are watching it too.
And that, like you said, that brings in the referral. So it's going to help you. So that's awesome. So if you were to give one last piece of advice for our viewers who are thinking about getting into video or getting into farming or combining the two, what would you give?
So for video, it's just like, I can give you the obvious advice, is like, get over yourself, just do it. It's not about you, it's about what you are saying. I don't personally turn on the news because I love X newscaster. I'm turning on the news to listen to the news, so if you are giving good content, people will keep showing up. So it's about what you're saying, not what you look like. And if you don't want to put out stuff for everybody, that's okay. The videos that are going to get you more appointments are 1-to-1 anyways. There's no editing. It's a one shot. You send your clients. You don't like it, do it again. That's what I would do. And then with the farming, I would just make sure, first of all, and I'm sure, you can teach this way better than I can, make sure you know your numbers. What's the turnover rate? What's the potential commission available? Like, what are all of those things? And what's your runway of how much are you willing to spend for how long before you give up, because you shouldn't give up, but you can tweak right along the way, like what's working, what's not working. But for me, for farming, it's like, I didn't get into that until I knew I was getting a minimum 15% return from my database. But when I say 15% return, like, my database now 8 years in is only 300 people. Like, it's a really tight, I've got another list, right? Like a big list, but that's the core. So 15 sales per 100 people in the database. I think once you get to that, then you can go, financially, I'm okay. I can now put it into more passive marketing. And farming's not truly passive, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
It's more like swipe the Visa card, get the postcards out, not physically show up to everything. So just the patience is huge.
Awesome. Yeah, I tell agents all the time, you got to have a plan, and you got to be willing to stick with it and be able to be capable of sticking with it long term. Because if you're trying and hoping, it's like you have to have that plan in place and the patience to do it. So we always wrap up with the best book. So what's one book that you'd recommend that's had an impact on your life, or you think would have an impact on our viewers?
Oh, interesting. Traction's a really good book.
Okay.
It's by Gino Wickman. It's basically like, it's for business owners, and it's like, we have an OS on our phone, and he teaches the EOS, the entrepreneur operating system. So how to make sure the right people are in the right seats to make sure things are getting done. It's like a huge exercise if you want to go through it, but as a team leader, business owner, in anything, I would recommend Traction.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes so people can check that out.
I think it's called Getting a Grip on Your Business, like Traction, Getting a Grip on Your
cool.
Business.
Yeah, I haven't read that. I'll have to check that out. And how can our viewers check out what you're up to, find out what you're doing, and connect with you?
Sure. Instagram is at the Storey Team, Story spelled with an E, Storey. And then if it's YouTube, just type in Tom Storey, you'll find me. But those are basically the two platforms we're very active on.
Awesome. Well, Tom, I really appreciate being on the show. I know our viewers are going to get a lot out of this. If they're willing to do the work and willing to put the time in, they can really grow their business. And it's awesome to see you grow your business to the level you have been doing and doing it consistently. And it's awesome to see other agents have that success using these things like you're talking about. And if they're willing to do it, they can have the success too.
Thanks, man. Last thing, as the market shifts, put your foot down on the gas pedal and start marketing harder now, spending more now than you like. I really think, man, the pie is smaller, but you can eat a lot more of it in the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know if people have read that Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that's what they talk about in the down markets is when agents gain their market share and not the up markets. And when everything's great, they think they're going to get more market share. It's those down markets when you can really take ownership and come out the other end with a much better business.
A newer agent told me yesterday, they're like, I haven't done an offer with a condition yet. I'm like, all right, giddy up.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thanks again. Appreciate it. And yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing where your business goes in the next few years as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for checking out today's episode. If you'd like more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page and our other social media channels. Looking forward to bringing you more great content like this, and happy farming.